Hello, gamers, and welcome back to another week of This Week in Eorzea. Joining me, as always, is the absolutely amazing and highly intelligent Pyra. Thank you.
Hello, I'm neither of those things, but I appreciate you.
Well, call me a liar, I guess. We're here to bring you all the Final Fantasy XIV news, hot topics, and everything else going on in the Final Fantasy XIV community. There's some things. I mean, news lately has been kind of all over the place, kind of lighthearted, and then hot topics have been kind of dark. I think. I find the news is fluffy and the community is dark.
The hot topics got a little burnt in the oven.
So far, none of the news is really addressing the drama in the community, but we'll cover both. So let's get started. Okay, and then the first news topic is like, okay, maybe this is a little dark. Auto demolition is turned off again for North America because of the fires in LA. They haven't stuck a end date on it. They never do. They always give more than enough time for most people to be able to, recover, get somewhere safe, pay for their sub again, etc., etc. So, if you're in North America, don't panic. If you've got real life stuff going on that's super important, don't panic about your sub. If it lapses, if you can't get into your house, just don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to penalize you.
Yeah, they typically give, I think, 30 days after the final announcement too, like after, I believe 30 days from when they resume the demolition. So even if hopefully, if you're watching this, hopefully no one got affected. I know a lot of people unfortunately did for the Los Angeles fires, but if you were someone who is kind of worried about it, you should have ample notice once it comes back live.
Absolutely. So yeah, no stress. Our hearts obviously go out to anyone dealing with that. As a West Coast person, I completely understand how devastating fires are. It's part of the way of life here on the West Coast, all the way from California up through Alaska. So, just stay cool. The East Coast is under ice storms for most of it, from what I understand. So maybe we can share.
It's all over the place. The weather is just mad.
Okay. Side tangent. #weather. Like we've heard about this for the last 10 years, that the weather is going to become increasingly chaotic because of the type of weather change we're experiencing, and it hasn't disappointed. It honestly hasn't disappointed. All over the world, no matter what country you live in, the weather has been nutso. So
every year it's something horrific, and it's just like, if no news is good news in that regard, like, ooh.
Exactly. So yeah, wherever you are, take care of yourselves. Season 12 of Crystalline Conflict will end at at the beginning of patch 7.16, which is apparently January 21st.
Next week.
Right?
Next Tuesday.
So, how come we haven't seen any information on 7.16 prior to just hearing about this now?
That's a great question.
They didn't have a separate post announcing it. It's just
so
away.
They didn't have anything posting it, but looking back at 7.15 patch notes, the only nugget of information for 7.16 was additional role quests are scheduled to be released in patch 7.16. So that and end of Crystalline Conflict is the only things, at least I can think of off the top of my head, for that patch. So it might be a very baby patch.
That's fair. To anyone who has maybe done some Crystalline Conflict and might not know this, like I didn't the first time they introduced this, after the season ends, make sure to go to the Wolves Den and talk to the person to get your rewards. Nothing in game is going to flag you for it. There's going to be no pop-up, no text message, no note, no anything telling you you have rewards sitting there, and if you don't claim them before the end of the next season, they're gone. So, if you've done Crystalline Conflict at all, even if you haven't really ranked up any, you probably still qualify for something. So go check it out. Volume 2, Session 2 of Pulse is now available on select online music retailers.
And on YouTube from our friends who like to upload the songs.
It doesn't show YouTube as being a retailer, but YouTube...
It's not!
It's not.
Just we get some pretty good people in the community.
Oh, illegal. Listen, I've just looked at the track list for this because they had it posted. The first track on it is a remix of "Be My Honey" from the raids this expansion, so it's worth picking up. Good King Moogle remix. Papaya. Come on.
The Moogle Mog is not what you're expecting, and it slaps. It slaps so hard. I love it. I love most all the Pulse songs that come out, so it's another good one.
If you need something like high beats per minute to take to the gym with you or something, these are good albums for it. Okay. New optional items on the online store, the Leisureware. I bought this. The first day it came out, I bought this. Look, I'm not into buying everything that comes on the online store, but when I saw this glam, I was like, this is my soul glam. This is how I feel every single time I play. It's got like the sweatpants and the tank top, and I'm like, yeah, this is. So, if it resonates with you and is worth the $22,
yeah, 22 US
in your mind to purchase it, then please go do that. You know what? I had some Christmas money left over. My brother usually gives me like a prepaid MasterCard every Christmas to spend on Steam and Final Fantasy XIV. So I just,
nice. I had a friend buy it for me, which I forgot that
nice.
You could. Yeah, it was really sweet. He bought it for me, and I forgot that you could buy for a friend on the Mog Station, and it delivers it via the Moogle Mail. Because I've done in the years past when you could buy like mounts for friends, it would just be you'd copy and paste the code, so you just send them the code, they have to redeem it. But this was like one of the first times I like opened my Moogle Mail, or I was told very forcefully, go check your Moogle Mail, and it was there when I got there. So
okay. So there are two things here that tip me off that you don't normally purchase things. The first one is that you call it the Mog Station, even though they stopped calling it the Mog Station years and years ago. It's the Final Fantasy XIV online store.
I do buy a lot of things, and I'm an old fogey who will not call it the Mog Station. And technically, they still use Mog Station in some of their promotional material on the site.
The Mog Station is where you can purchase like expansions and extra retainer services and server hops and name changes.
You can still get the online items. Listen, in my heart, it's still the Mog Station. I don't care what they technically call it.
The second was the Moogle Mail thing, because they've been delivering every purchase from the online store there for a couple of years now.
Gifted items.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten gifted stuff in a while, Debbie. I bought myself. Yeah, I usually gift myself.
Okay. Well, there you go. We're all learning things. So yeah, sometimes you could just have mail. The two ways you know you have mail is obviously it has the mail icon by the server time or local time up on your HUD. But also if you pass by a Moogle or a letterbox, it will make a little noise. So you know you've got mail waiting. You've got mail. Mog Station sale. Now through. This is an online store sale, right? Online store sale.
Yes.
Yes.
I always get the online store sale confused with the physical item. The Square Enix store. It just feels better saying Mog Station. I know I'm wrong, but it feels right.
It feels so right. The optional items they have for sale right now are some mounts. That includes the Golden Nimbus and the Lotus for anyone who is looking to pick that one up. Those are two of my favorite mounts. Like the Lotus is just gorgeous, and the Golden Nimbus, like I had to get. It's Nimbus. I had to get it.
Perfect.
Free logging campaign. What's this about?
Yeah, so this is good. If you are watching this and maybe you're not an active subscriber to Final Fantasy XIV, or maybe you have a friend that you're really trying to coerce back into the game, those people can log in for up to 96 hours for free without a subscription. They can log back into their old account, and it is only active it's active now. It started on the 9th, and it goes through February 6th. So 96 hours is not bad, especially if you're trying to like maybe coerce someone back in, trying out some of the content a little bit and hope that they stick around, or maybe you're trying to find love for the game again or something like that. You can always come back and give it a little test run.
Absolutely. So the eligibility on this is you obviously have to have previously purchased and registered 14. You have to have an inactive account, and you had to have been inactive for at least 30 days prior to the return. So if you've been away from the game, inactive sub for more than 30 days, you can take advantage of that and play for free. At least for 96 hours. You can kind of, for anyone complaining maybe that the sub prices are a little high, you can really stick it to Square Enix and get some free value for your money. Yeah, so patch 716 is the additional role quests, and
big question
maybe
mark.
whatever they want to throw in. If they wanted to make some class changes, this is normally when they do that. Okay.
I'm like 50-50 about maintenance. I don't know if we'll see maintenance or not, so we'll probably hear about that next week? End of this week?
End of this week, I would say. Now, if they're not doing any infrastructure work, it should be a really short maintenance, like going down again, I think, around midnight Pacific. But here's something. Here's something someone said, and I don't know if it's true or not. Maybe you guys know. Did Yoshi P change his main to Pictomancer?
I'm blinking. I don't know if my thing can... I hope not.
I hope not too. So it's a rumor going around that Yoshi P changed his main to Picto, which is why Picto isn't changing. But it might be fake news. I think it's fake news. You think it's fake news?
Listen,
I haven't heard anything.
My 10-year Black Mage heart. Don't break it. I feel like I've heard some stuff on the horizon for Black Mage. And this is, again, more rumors and speculations from friends. But I feel like I've heard that Black Mage is going to get what it's been deserving versus Picto for a little while now, which is a rabbit hole of a conversation. But that would lead me to think that Yoshi is still Team Black Mage, which I hope that he hasn't crossed over to the dark side. I love Picto too, so I can't really say the dark side, but...
Yeah, I mean, Picto is fun to play. We love Picto.
I love
Picto feels very satisfying to play, but it's just very sad to be forced into it because it does so much better than other classes in some content, so...
Yeah, our Picto was out for Ultimate for Fru the other night, and I had to go on Picto. Without ever learning rotation for Picto, our DPS was like 6 or 7% better.
Wow.
Versus me having many years on Black Mage. I was like, this is sad. This is very sad.
Yeah. Yeah, so when there's a noticeable difference like that, we expect to see some sort of class changes. Now, I say this every time a patch is incoming, but if they are going to do class changes, they may announce that they're going to do them, but they are definitely not going to tell us what it is until the servers go down. So the patch notes aren't getting released. The full patch notes never get released until after servers are down. So they don't let people know in advance what these class changes are going to be. I don't know why. I mean, I guess maybe if you wanted to sneakily buy some materia before the price changes or something. I don't know.
I also wonder if it's like, as a creative, sometimes people work until the 11th hour is kind of the phrase that they use for it. So if they're not putting any expectations in the case of the last second, like, wait, change this one thing, or nope, we can't do this one thing yet. So I wonder if they just don't want to let people down. So they wait until it's 100% locked in.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. The end of Heaven's Turn is the 16th. That's coming up real fast, isn't it?
Thursday?
Oh my god, I haven't even done it yet.
Gotta get on it.
Yeah, only got a couple days left, guys, to do Heaven's Turn if you haven't already. There is a serpent of Ronka? A serpent of something with an orange on its head.
It's essentially the serpent of Ronka. Dyed white with an orange.
An orange. Okay. Tip of the week brought to you by Pyra. What is the tip of the week this week?
This one's less of a tip, more of just like a fun, neat feature. There's this thing called iCam or idle cam. You can also play with it in like your G-pose or your kind of idle camera settings if you go in the settings of the game. But one thing that I've done in the past, which is fun if you're just kind of semi-actively AFKing in the game or being idle but like still watching your monitor, is you can do /iCam, so ICAM, and it'll just go through random idle camera. So like every few seconds or so, it'll flip its perspective in the zone that you're in. So I've done this. The funnest place I've done this is in a fight. So you can kind of like see different angles of the boss and like different angles of the zone. But it just kind of points the camera in random directions here and there. And it's a fun little idle camera option if you're someone who either you're streaming and maybe you want something in the background while you're going AFK, or you're just kind of hanging out and you want to see something pop on the stream. It's it's kind of neat.
Okay, here's 2 bonus tips. So idle camera will always target something targetable. So the focus of the shot will always be either a character or a minion or what have you. Sometimes if you do it in the middle of a major city, bots, like the little lalas that live in the earth, it will target them and you'll see them continuously spawn and respawn. The second thing is it's connected to your G-pose. So if you go into G-pose and set like light settings and sparkles and all that sort of stuff, and then go into idle camera, those same settings will be applied. So you can make your idle camera look all snazzy and what have you. So it is a really cool little feature. I think I've done a video where the background of the video was literally just like idle camera doing its thing. So yeah.
It's a fun little, I find it as a fun little addition if I just want, say if I'm at my computer but I'm like writing or doing something and I'm logged into the game like kind of AFK, just like having the little different things pop up, because sometimes you forget the little quirks of the game if you're not looking for them, and so like having it filter through like really random zoomed in or zoomed out like perspectives is kind of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can find it if you don't want to type in iCam, you can find it and the hotbar button under your actions and abilities in the general tab. I think it's general. Extra is G-pose. Oh, actually, extra might be G-pose and idle camera. So you can check it out there.
You can also turn it on when you go AFK too. So if your character goes AFK, it can just turn into that.
Yeah, there's a menu in the character's options that allows you to just idle camera if your character is AFK for an amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this week's hot topic. A lot of creators have been talking about this. This is really a hot topic, and for a very justifiable reason. Like, sometimes we talk about hot topics and we're like, why is everyone talking about this? This is great. There's a really good reason why people are talking about this. I know other creators who have had announcements go out in their discords regarding this to let everyone know. So a little bit of very generic backstory. So at the beginning of Dawn Trail, they released the new blacklist feature that allowed you to blacklist people's accounts. So anyone who was harassing you or stalking you, if you added that person to a blacklist, they were also blacklisted on any alts they might have. So this allowed you to better protect yourself. But some very entrepreneurial individual was able to use that feature for nefarious means and create an add-on that via that code managed to identify a person, all of their alts, all of their retainers, and attach it to a database, so to speak. So you could keep tabs on. Essentially, that's really the only thing, is so you can keep tabs on people. The unofficial reason it exists is so that you can find out which in-game characters belong to the retainers who are undercutting you on the market board. But that's a pretty crappy reason for violating someone's privacy like that. Like, why? Why would you do that? So, the hot topic is one, like, very privacy related. The second thing is, I just smashed my train of thought into a cliff. Okay, let's address the first thing first, and maybe the second thing will come to me.
Privacy.
Privacy. Listen, for some reason, we probably all know, stalking, privacy violations, harassment is a rather large part of Final Fantasy XIV, unfortunately. We have a fantastic community, but in the darker corners of Eorzea, there's a lot of this stuff going on, because there's a lot of very, very intimate, very personal interactions going on in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And with that sort of play comes people who take it a little too far, or don't know when to stop, or don't know when to let go. And so working on the privacy of the game was a big feature for Dawn Trail, trying to protect people. And this just completely does the opposite. What are your thoughts? I mean, I've been talking for a while now, kind of explaining it, but I mean, have you ever been undercut on the market board and your first thought was, I wish I could go find this person and smack some sense into them?
Can't say I have. Like, in a joking way, maybe, but not, like, just a hot take, and it's probably a very obvious one. If you are going that in-depth, you should stop playing the game. You've reached a level of, like, you're taking it way too seriously. Like, if you're hunting down, like, literally it seems like a manhunt. If you're hunting down a person who maybe undercut you by whatever, like, you're taking it way too seriously. That being said, like, the idea that somebody has made, regardless of the reason, unless they're Square Enix themselves that, like, need to kind of do this for research, whatever your reason may be, this is scary. Like, what they've done is, like, super scary. And I'm also feeling like it leaves such a susceptible gap open for people to take advantage of that in such a poor way, which is kind of some of the scare that we're into right now with, you know, potential stalkers, and, like, privacy breaches.
Yeah, I mean, It used to be the only way you could really get away from someone in game was to create an alt character, because then they don't have access to your character name. Because the friends list, even if you change your character name, it will still update on their friends list.
Right.
They'll still be able to track you. But creating an alt gives you a little bit of anonymity. But attaching an alt to a main character completely gets rid of that.
Yeah. From what I heard too, if I'm remembering correctly, the mod can also tell you what location, like what zone that character is in, which is like that is just a deeper level of like stalking and harassment, or like being susceptible to that, because like not only have you blocked this character, but they can find out exactly where you are and just continue to find you no matter where you are. And I tried the blocking feature a few weeks ago with a friend, even before this happened. When you block someone, unless she did it wrong, I could see her, but she couldn't see me.
Mm-hmm.
So it also leaves like another gap of like, you know, the blacklist feature where you don't see them. It's just putting on the blinders. It's like putting on a blindfold and saying, ha ha ha, I can't, you're not there, but no, they're there. You just can't see them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it doesn't hide your character from anyone. What it does is prevent any interactions from the other person showing up on your screen. So.
Right.
The part two of this was this app, or I don't know, app, mod, add-on. They're all synonyms, really. This add-on collected the information of every character that appeared on screen from someone who downloaded and installed it. And there was no way to opt out of it collecting this data. So you didn't even have to have it. If someone was in the same zone as you, walked into the same area as you, had it, then it was collecting your data. The only way to opt out of it was to go to their... Well, there's two ways. You could download it and opt out of it. So then you're part of the problem. You're just not being affected by it. Or you could go to their Discord and submit your information and opt out of it via their Discord. But then, of course, they have all your Discord information. So...
And then the cherry on top, I don't know their process because I have zero intention of joining that Discord. But if it's like hey, toss your info into this public thread and we'll definitely take you off the list. And half the people in there, if they're there to be the stalkers, what? Yeah, go swim with the sharks. Like, what? I don't get it.
Exactly. So here we have an issue where mods have been a part of the community that has basically been ignored. As long as everyone was just doing their own thing, no one really talked about it, no one showed it off, flaunted it, whatever, it's gone under the table. But the problem is, mods could always have been used for purposes like this. There's really nothing stopping a person from taking advantage of whatever exploits they find in the game or in the code and doing something like this. So now, really, we're waiting on eggshells for Square Enix to let us know what they're doing about it. We don't know if it's going to be fixing the blacklist system so that this add-on can no longer exploit it, or whether it's going to be really cracking down on add-ons altogether. There's just no way for us to say. Now, a lot of people believe that if they were to do that, it would negatively impact the game because of the volume of people who are using add-ons, but I don't think Square Enix really cares about the volume of people who are, illegally modifying their game against terms of service. What do you think?
I think this is where I want to know if their decision to not crack down on mods is more of a trying to keep the percentage of the modders happy, and then how much of it is just them like trying to be nice people. I guess trying to be nice people versus just like trying not to spend the resources. But they've said for years now, like, don't do it. We won't crack down on, like, essentially to the extent of like, we won't crack down on it if you guys don't abuse it. We'll turn a blind eye if you guys don't abuse it. And it's like, I know it's not like an everybody is abusing it type of thing. There are modders that are using mods that really only affect themselves. However, like, more and more things like this, it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if they find a way to ban them altogether, if there's a way, which I'm sure people will always find a way around it. But the more and more these mods come out, the scarier they get.
Yeah.
Truthfully.
No, absolutely. And the thing is, like, miscommunication is the modder's best friend in this case, because when this was first breaking, there was some discords and some creators who were telling people that the way to opt out is to download the mod and do it that way, and that it's never a good solution to download a mod that violates people's privacy in order to not violate your privacy. I can't stress that enough. If anyone was kind of on the fence, not knowing what they should be doing, don't. Because it could be that they find a way to track who's using this mod and just shut everyone down until they figure out what's going on. So the last thing you want is any of those packets or information on your computer. Like, just don't. If you haven't already. If you have, just jettison it, get rid of it. I don't know. Set it on fire. I don't use mods. I don't know, but. So what is the biggest part of this issue in your mind? So is this an issue about Square Enix putting out a flawed blacklist system? Is this an issue about there being too many creepy people in Final Fantasy XIV? Is this an issue about being too lax about mods? Like, what are we even talking about here? What is the big issue?
I'd say yes to all three, first of all. Like, it's kind of a little bit of each, and as much I go back and forth, like, not to white knight Squeenix, because they do not need white knighting, but I feel like there are victims at the end, and I feel like the victims are more so the people who are getting stalked, but also, like, the people who are doing bad things, like, they should be the one. They're the biggest problem, right? Like, even if the system is flawed, like, if you're using these tools for harm, like, you are the problem. Second to that, maybe, yes, the system should be better. I think Square Enix has to do something, because it's, at the end of the day, it is on them. However, it's not their fault at the same time that people are terrible, and there are just terrible people doing terrible things. Yeah, I mean, I also think with that, to kind of challenge that too, like, Squeenix has been super lax about mods. And, you know, I'm seeing some of our comments in the chat too, like, Japanese laws might make it hard to do such like certain mod bans and restrictions, which I don't know the technical thing with that. I'd have to do some research, but like, if that weren't true, or like, besides that, like, I think that they need to tighten up if they're able to, because I just feel like we're going to keep hearing about mods like this over and over again, and like, we keep hearing about how they push boundaries, and like, it's just going to keep happening. So what do we do to prevent that from continuing to be a problem? Because unfortunately, we also can't expect that everybody is going to be a good person. I hate saying that, but it's like the defensive driver thing. Like, when you're learning how to drive, you have to learn how to drive on the defensive, because you can't assume that someone else is going to do the right thing.
Right. And I mean, with regard to holding Squeenix and the dev team accountable for perhaps a flawed system in the game that allowed people to take advantage of it, I mean, aren't we just talking about building a better mousetrap? Like, Squeenix does better to make sure their systems are more secure and can't be taken advantage of or violated, but then the people creating the mods get more creative and find better ways to do it. And
Right.
like you there's a point in which we can't say, oh well, it was their fault for creating a system that could have been violated or exploited, because I mean, from what I understand, like, blinders on, not part of the mod scene or glam scene or any of that at all, RP in general. There are a lot of very talented modders that spend the majority of their time even monetizing the mods they create and the assets for the game that they create. So, I mean, they're not going to let this go easily. Like, if they want to achieve something in the game, they're going to find a way to get it done, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Some people have made literally their full-time, if not part-time income off of third-party tools in this game and modding.
Which just boggles the mind. It boggles the mind. Like, Yoshi P says no mods, guys. Against the terms of service. We could legit shut down your account, no questions asked, if you use mods. And everyone's like, not only am I gonna use mods, I'm gonna make and sell mods. I don't know. I don't know. So the final part of this puzzle piece, of course, is the number of people who utilize these services. So would the game be negatively impacted by the amount of players that would leave if mods were just shut down?
It's such a hard one because I feel so biased. Like, in my personal play, I do not use mods. I do not use third-party tools. So for me, I'm like, nah, what are you talking about? Like, that's not going to do anything for me. But I like, there is a large part of the community that in some way, shape, or form uses third-party tools and mods. Even ones that are that moral gray area that we've kind of covered before, which is like raid parse logging and parsing, and you know, sometimes it could be for good, sometimes it could be for bad. I do think that there would be a negative impact of the community. I think what the devs need to do is now just kind of like, if they're, this is super hypothetical, if they were ever to try to think of like, okay, we either keep the game how it is now, or we completely figure out a way to ban all mods for the end of time, figure that out, which I don't even know if that's possible. Theoretically. They would have to weigh out, you know, losing a player base, a significant chunk of the player base, versus keeping privacy in check. Which I think is like a real, it's not the same metric. Like, it's not, you know, apples to apples. It's more of like apples to chocolate bars. I don't know. Like, it's a completely different, like, thing, but they both have value, you know what I mean? Like, I think people who use third-party tools, there are a lot, if you count like every mod and add-on and kind of thing that works off the code. But at the same time, like, the privacy is a real thing, and that's like a real scary concern. So it's and it opens us up to, you know, this is a scary type of mod. I think it's just gonna get worse. I think there are gonna be people who exploit it even worse than this. And so, like, the future of kind of that, I think, needs to be taken into consideration too.
Yeah, I mean, it's really like we said earlier, forcing their hand. This is why that rule existed, so that if things ever got out of hand, they had the ability to do whatever they deemed necessary without any questions. Like, it's there in the terms of service that we all agreed upon. We clicked the button when we created our accounts, and if they decided to shut down every account using a third-party ad, they could do so, and you have no grounds to argue that necessarily. Is it the best thing for the game? No, probably not. I mean, it would put a huge fracture in the community. It's something we haven't even talked about, but they're already concerned about, some players who are playing other games right now and the lull in the content at the beginning of the expansion, that sort of thing. So the last thing they want to do is really piss off a significant portion of the player base. Considering all those players, whether or not they're using mods, are still paying subs. Like, they're still...
Yeah.
Theoretically, I don't know. Maybe there's a mod to bypass that too, but to my knowledge, everyone is still paying a sub. So
yeah,
there is no middle ground. Like, take a game like Baldur's Gate 3, for example, that has intentionally gone the route of modding and created like their own mod community and endorsed it and supported it and ported it over to the consoles, and they're doing everything they can to encourage mods, because the more people modding the game and having fun with it, the more people are playing the game. But of course, Final Fantasy XIV can't support mods in that way because they sell cosmetic items.
Right.
Like, there's never going to be a approved list of cosmetic mods from 14, because that's really just eating into their potential market of things they can sell. So the odds of them ever supporting especially cosmetic mods or anything it's just so minuscule, it's not even worth talking about.
Yeah.
So is that, in their mind, is the cosmetics worth the potential risk to privacy?
It's a tough one. Like, I know my biased answer, which is no. Like, privacy is key. However, like, when I say large, like, I'm not kidding. I know people who make a full-time salary off of selling mods. Like, there is a market. Like, it is not like, oh, a few people here and there mod. Like, it is huge. It is a huge amount of the player base.
Okay, so do you have any final thoughts on this? Like, what can be done in the future? What do you foresee happening? What should we expect? And how do we even protect ourselves?
I think I will say first what we could expect in the future. I remember years ago, I don't remember how many years ago, but there was a very active ban hammer. Like, with certain mods and third-party tools. I remember Squeenix was like the Reaper with the scythe, going through and like, and they'd get reports of people doing it, and they were just banning accounts. Like, I almost see that on the horizon at minimum, maybe. This kind of like banning spree of people using these tools in these ways if they're found. Gosh, yeah, it's super tough about like kind of what's next. To be fair, and how do we protect ourselves? Like, it is so tough because this technology is out there. I think part of how to protect yourself is very similar to any other sense of the internet. Like, if people are gonna find you, they're gonna find you. But that doesn't sound good at all.
You can't protect yourself.
You cannot hide. You cannot run. No, like, be safe. Even if the game is not safe in that way, which I hate to say, like, well, it sucks, but like, find other ways in your life to be safe, I guess. Like, if you're sensitive about your information getting doxed, your personal information, be more rigid about that. Be more rigid about who you give your personal email out to, who you give your personal information out to. And I know that doesn't like help for in-game privacy necessarily. However, it's only gonna start with that. It's only gonna start with people being creeps in the game, and then it's gonna bleed into other areas of your life. So just try to be safe. Yeah.
And I mean, to that, like, people who are part of the glamming community often have social accounts connected to Final Fantasy XIV, where they're posting all their character images and everything on Instagram or on YouTube or wherever it is. So definitely make sure that your privacy settings are high on any social media where you post your character name or other identifying character information.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want is, I mean, even if we assume there's no way to protect your privacy in game, it is what it is. Anyone who sees your character can potentially know your other characters, could potentially know your retainers. If we just assume that information is already out there, the only way to protect yourself is to make sure that nothing in game connects you to who you are in real life, like you said.
Right.
That way, at least any harassment, any stalking, any issues are limited only to 14, and you have the ability to turn the game off if you need to, and go do something else, go touch grass, go de-stress, whatever you need to do. That being said, there is still the reporting feature for harassment. There is still the blacklist, so you can take steps on your own character to protect yourself from seeing that sort of thing if someone is bothering you. You can submit a ticket, you can submit a query to a GM, or whatever you need to do to kind of take care of it. But it's crappy. I've seen other creators kind of doing their thing on stream, kind of going through Eureka or going through Fates, and then people keep bothering them, and so they switch to another character, and it keeps happening. So, I mean, you don't want to see anyone going through that. It's terrible to witness. Because they're just trying to have fun playing the game, and they're being blocked from doing so. But as to what they might do going forward, we just, like you said, we just don't know. It's in their court. The ball is entirely in their court. So whatever reaction they take to this, whether it's unfortunately ignoring the situation, which we don't want to see, or at the other end, taking a very hard fist against mods, and anything in between is totally viable. They're allowed to do whatever they want in this scenario, whatever they think is best for the game and the community, but we're all just waiting for the lodestone message. And honestly, given how much content has been created on this, how much has been said about it, I'm surprised we haven't seen anything yet. Maybe it's just limited to North America, or maybe they're taking the stance of, well, you guys created this problem, so I don't know. I don't even. And the problem is, the longer they wait before saying something officially, the more we speculate like this, right?
Yeah. They're gonna have to say something soon, truthfully. Like, technically they don't have to. At the same time, like, if they don't, that's gonna be a pretty crappy move on their account, because it exists by blacklisting the idea, like in game.
Right.
The person doesn't disappear. You just shut your eyes to them. And, like, I hope they don't do that for this topic, because it's very real. And I'm very, very thankful I have never had to deal with this. I've never had to worry about a lurker, a stalker, or nothing. But I know some people who have, and who've had to make completely different accounts in previous years to avoid them. And so I really hope they take this seriously, because it's a real thing, and it gets super concerning. I'm hoping that people are just still coming back from vacation, the Christmas holiday, I mean, and, like, maybe extended vacation, and that's why we haven't heard anything, and not that they're just too scared to say anything, because that would lose a little bit of respect points in my book.
And I mean, honestly, they're probably attending a number of meetings trying to even figure out what the best course of action is. Like, maybe they don't even know how valuable the modding portion of the community is, and what steps they're willing to take to limit what's going on. So we'll stay tuned.
We'll stay tuned. I find that valid too. Like, from a business perspective, I would rather them say, like, hey, we know this is an issue. We don't know what we're going to do, truthfully. But we're trying to figure out a solution.
Right.
That would put, I think, a lot of people's mind at ease. Even if it's like, hey, we see you, we acknowledge you, we're working on it. We don't have an answer, but we're working on it. I think even that little gesture does a lot. So hopefully that's something that we see in the next week.
Which is funny because I've always considered 14 to be one of those games that go above and beyond in communicating, usually before any calls to communicate have even happened, which makes it all the more weird that we haven't heard anything. Because usually Yoshi's the first person out there saying, hey, we've heard you and we're just waiting, or we're in a holding pattern, or we're in meetings or something. But so, I mean, I wish there was a nice little bow to put on this hot topic, but people are still going to talk about it until we have some sort of resolution, whatever that might be.
Dark.
I know,
day.
right? I know. So let's lighten it up a little bit before the end. What are you up to this week, and where can people find you?
Oh, yes. So y'all can find me YouTube, Twitch. I'll be live streaming multiple times this week. We have regular 14 shenanigans. We have Fru Ultimate progging. And then this Sunday, because of the Snow Streamer subathon that I had, the viewer's choice was a crowd control stream with Skyrim. So if you want to send me 1 million mud crabs and ruin me as a newbie player of Skyrim, feel free. Sunday. It
was a hoot. When I did it, there was cheese everywhere. Just cheese everywhere.
For
crowd
me,
control Skyrim is fun.
It was a mix of cheese and mud crabs, mostly mud crabs.
Awesome. And for me, I'm going to be streaming tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday evening for maps. So join me then. Just doing some Final Fantasy XIV stuff. I mean, even though it's really slow, I'm still chipping away at things. I've got a couple more classes to get to 100. And I'm leveling my trusts and doing all that sort of cleanup stuff, I guess. Getting it out of the way. Housekeeping, so that when the new content comes out, when the exploration zone comes out, when all that sort of stuff starts happening, I don't have to worry about doing that in the background,
Right.
Kind of sad. Yeah. Thank you very much for joining me. It is always a pleasure to get to talk to you.
Likewise. Love it.
For everyone else, if you want more Final Fantasy XIV news, updates, and current events, we'll be back next week, same time, same channel. Hopefully with a follow-up to today's news events. So join us then. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Love yourself as much as you love others. And we'll see you all in game. Bye.
Bye.